Hold on, let me get rid of this guy. When I die, that's exactly the way I want to go.
Hey everyone, as always, Jarek here, and welcome to G-String. What is G-string, you may be asking? Well, a G-string is a garment consisting of a narrow strip of cloth that covers the genitals. G-String, the video game, is a source game based on a cyberpunk dystopian future. Before I continue on, I need to thank today's sponsor, and I'm pretty happy about this one because this is the browser that I personally use, Opera GX. I find it to be the best browser for my needs, which makes sense. It's the first browser advertised towards gamers, and in more ways than just adding RGB to everything. If you go to the top left and click on GX Control, this gives you access to features like Hot Tabs Killer, showing you how many resources each tab is taking up. This also gives you a network limiter, a RAM limiter, and a CPU limiter. This is obviously very useful if you're streaming or gaming, however it's also useful on lower spec PCs. My laptop is pretty old. Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome cause it to freeze constantly, but Opera GX never gave me this issue. Finally, I could just browse Reddit without worrying about it freezing constantly for no reason. If you click on the controller icon in the top left, you will open GX Corner. It will tell you when free games are available, when sales are available, what games are coming up, and it doesn't matter what platform you game on. Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch, PC, even Mac. Back over here on the left toolbar, there is something I find really cool, Twitch integration. This will tell you whenever someone is streaming without having to go to Twitch. None of my friends are streaming right now. I am sad. There is also native integration with Discord, meaning if you don't have two screens and do a lot of browsing, this will be very useful. There's quite a few other integrations here as well. Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram, Instagram. Check it out. Opera GX also has a good amount of customization. If you can't tell, I like the black and red color scheme quite a bit. That's all a coincidence, I swear. If you go to the top right, you can customize how Opera GX looks. It has some default themes, but also you can customize this with any colors you want. So a huge thanks goes to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. They can sponsor me as much as they want as far as I'm concerned. I'm more than happy to shill this browser out. Again, I use it on a daily basis. I can confirm it's a very good browser. If you want to try it out yourself, I would highly recommend it. It is free. Click that link down below in the video information or in the pinned comment to try it yourself. Also, when you do install it, let me know what color scheme you went with, and if you're not using black and red, tell me why you're wrong. Alright, so you might have heard of this game, but you probably have not. This game has been in the making for a very long time. 12 years in fact. As such, we can't really judge it in the same way that we do other games. This is a source game made by a small studio. Calling it a studio may be a little misleading to what they actually are. I had virtually all of them end up following me as I was streaming the game, and it was obvious that they had their own sort of friend group together. The next question you probably have is this a mod? And the answer is no. It started as a mod and turned into a full production game, and now costs around $20 on Steam. So let's start where I normally do, the graphics. Since this runs on the source engine, I don't really have any complaints as far as a PC port goes. It's not being ported from anything, it's just a source game. Everything you want is here, yes, including an FOV slider, and I'm actually really glad that we're getting some more games that come out on the source engine. Yeah, it's really outdated nowadays, but I don't know. The source engine almost has its own genre of first-person shooters. It definitely has its own feel that I just feel really comfortable. That was terrible English. These are generally comfort games for me, that's what I'm saying. This game doesn't necessarily push the source engine like, say, Black Mesa does. However, where it's lacking in technological advancements, it more than makes up for it in aesthetic and art style. This game goes all in on its world building, and it's just downright stunning for a source game. Right from the beginning of the game, I could immediately tell that their first priority was world building and atmosphere. And considering the last games I played were Medal of Honor Warfighter and then Doom Eternal, it's really nice to see this sort of change of pace. These styles of shooters that are heavily influenced by things like, say, Half-Life and Fear are easily my favorite. I just love this era, and while Doom 3 is undoubtedly not as good as Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, it's still my favorite, even though it's so different. Boy, I know I'm going to be getting some shit for that in the comments. Look, no matter how you feel about Doom 3, it's still a good game, it just is a very different style of game. And I really do like this style. Anyway, point being, no matter where you look, there is some attention to detail, and I can definitely see why this game took 12 years to produce. I can almost guarantee the vast majority of their time went into polishing up the environment, and it paid off. So I guess while you're waiting for Cyberpunk, because it got delayed again, you can play another Cyberpunk game. This game really does want you to see the vast, intricate landscapes that they have put in front of you. There will be numerous times throughout the game where you're going up an elevator just to get you a good view of the city. And why is the city covered in smog and seemingly in ruin, you may ask? That's actually a great question. This game takes place in the future where climate change has totally wrecked Earth. This game briefly gives you this information right at the very beginning. However, most of the time you're going to be seeing this through just exploration and looking around you. You'll frequently hear things like an intercom telling you that the acid rain is dangerous or that there's low oxygen and you need to be wearing a respirator. There will be a time where a hurricane will go through and it'll be classified as a smog storm. Hell, this is a line in the game you'll hear.
Favor sexual relations with synthetic companions. Use birth control when engaging with biological partners. Remember, having one child is enough. Having two is a problem. And having three is illegal.
You know, Earth isn't at this point yet in 2020, but he has a point. So as far as the graphics are concerned, yeah, it's on an outdated engine. I mean, the Source engine came out in 2004, that's 16 years ago. But even then, this is just a really good looking game, and it shows just how much an art style and polish can carry the graphics of your game. Unfortunately, the story doesn't fare so well. While you can pick up a lot of what's going on around you just by seeing the environment, it's never really explained what's going on. You play as a woman with cybernetic implants. You have pyrokinesis, which means you can pick things up and throw them, and also form a fireball to throw at things. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned. Your hand is basically a gravity gun. Doesn't really do anything else. Your cybernetic implants do allow you to stay underwater forever without needing to breathe, which is neat, but nothing else really changes the gameplay. So what's your point? Why are you in this city? To be honest, I don't really know. What I do know is that there are 3 people either trying to capture you or kill you. There is the original doctor who worked on you. He wants you because millions got put into you, apparently. There is a corporate overlord that wants you dead because you're kind of just blowing stuff up. And then there's a general that also wants you dead. As far as I can tell, the immediate story is just to escape. Even then, that's not really explained to the player very well. I don't exactly know who the main antagonist is, aside from a few cutscenes that are shown, but I'm still confused. It's not a situation like Half-Life 2 where you have clear allies and you know Dr. Breen is the enemy. It's not as bad as it sounds because as a player, I just sort of accepted I was in a dystopian future, but again, I was still confused as hell. But nah, whatever. Story isn't really that important when it comes to a shooter, so how's the gameplay? Well, it's pretty much Half-Life 2. For example, all the weapons in the game are basically just reskinned Half-Life 2 weapons. The pistol is a futuristic pistol, the SMG is a futuristic SMG and can also shoot a grenade. The crowbar is a hammer. The gravity gun is your telekinetic powers, as I mentioned earlier. The revolver is this strong pistol. The shotgun is a shotgun, and it can still fire 2 shotgun shells at once, somehow. The pulse rifle is a futuristic assault rifle looking thing that acts exactly the same. The grenades are, well, grenades, and the rocket launcher is the same style of rocket launcher that can be laser guided. And the crossbow is replaced with a sniper that basically makes them ragdoll into Earth's orbit. I'm not gonna lie, I know it's basically a reskin of the crossbow, but holy hell, this is fun. They definitely dialed up the ragdoll in this game a lot, and that's a guilty pleasure of mine. Seeing something ragdoll in uncontrollable ways that make no sense, it's just fun. So yeah, it's basically just the weapon sandbox of Half-Life 2. Nothing really stands out here as different, they didn't try to mix things up, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. Half-Life 2 does have a good weapon sandbox. I have said before that Half-Life 1 is better than Half-Life 2 because the combat is better, and that's true, I still hold that opinion. There's more weapon variety and more enemy variety in Half-Life 1. However, whenever I say that, people think I hate Half-Life 2 for whatever reason, and that's not true. I adore Half-Life 2, I just think Half-Life 1 is better. So having Half-Life 2's weapon sandbox isn't really a bad thing. The enemy variety, on the other hand, is kind of lacking. You pretty much are always going to be fighting the same soldiers and the same robots throughout the entire game. There's some things to mix it up, like a turret, or mines, or floating robot things. I don't really consider these true enemies. They're more of just hazards. There are these badass looking walker things you have to fight once or twice, and you do have to shoot some planes down. Pretty much just shooting down the helicopters in Half-Life 2. Yeah, the enemy variety is kind of a problem. And yes, it was a problem in Half-Life 2, but it's even more of a problem here.
Wait, no, you do have to fight attack slugs. I totally forgot these enemies were even in the game. And yeah, you heard that right, attack slugs. Honestly, if they had more unique enemies like this, I would have liked the game a lot more. Even if it is something as silly as attack slugs. Now for a source mod that lasts, 2 to 4 to 5 hours, that's perfectly fine. That's what you would expect from a source mod. Problem is, this is a $20 game that lasts 14 to 16 hours. Yeah, this game very, very outstays its welcome. At a certain point, probably before halfway through the game, you'll probably start getting that feel of, I'm just playing to beat the game rather than enjoy the game. I felt like every chapter was just longer than it needed to be. It could have been cut in half and the pacing would have been much better. And some of them just have no reason to even exist. For example, on one point you stow yourself onto a spaceship, it takes off into orbit, and then you get on an escape pod and go back to Earth. What was the point of this chapter even existing? Oh, right, show up the scenery, I get it. That's honestly how I feel about this game. It's not offensively bad, it just feels like it was made entirely to show off the art of the game, and without any other real purpose. It drags on for far too long, and it reminds me of a quote I heard from Marty O'Donnell recently. I was watching an interesting video where the original Bungie developers reacted to a world record speedrun of Halo Combat Evolved. When they got to the infamous library level, which by the way took the speedrunner 12 minutes long when every other level took only around 2 to 5, every single one of these original devs reacted basically with disgust of this level, saying things like it was just hard to watch and it just dragged on and it looked tedious, and the original plan for this level was very different, but they just couldn't make it work. The quote that stood out to me was when Marty O'Donnell said,
"This is grueling to watch, even with all the cheats."
Yes. Well, this is also a great example of we didn't know how to like self-produce. Be like, hey, this is just too long. Like, the mission feels over like 45 minutes ago.
And I think that's what's happening with this mod. They kept adding more and more stuff that they liked but wasn't really thought out or fleshed out well, and instead of removing it to making it pace better, they just kind of made it kind of work, but not really. I could definitely tell I needed a little bit more playtesting as well, as it was one of those games where I frequently found myself saying, where in the hell do I go? And oftentimes the solution felt like I wasn't doing the right thing. For example, I wandered around here forever trying to figure out what to do, and then I realized I had to jump on top of the fence and walk across. This feels like I'm getting out of the map. This doesn't feel like the solution. Maybe it wasn't the solution. I don't know. Maybe I just missed something, but I wandered around forever and couldn't find what to do. The game also seems to love the parts of Half-Life 2 that no one really liked. For example, it really liked to play the floor as lava. There's just too many of these sections in the game, and at one point one of them really wanted me to drag 2 boxes to jump across over and over again across this entire chasm, and I just kind of went, fuck that, turned on God mode and just walked to the end, because what am I getting out of this? When you do finally get to the end of the game, you climb a tower, the big corporate structure at the center of the city, have a climactic battle shooting down a few spaceship-looking things, and then another cutscene starts. I assumed this would be the end of the game, but it wasn't. You get taken off into Mars, and then at this point it changes to an entirely different genre, because the last thing you want when a game is overstaying its welcome is for it to change entirely to a very basic version of Rogue Squadron. None of the rest of the game is necessarily offensive or even really that bad, it just is a little too long. This part here, though, is just not good. You're just shooting the nav points and waiting for characters to say, I'll move far enough away before it blows up, or you'll randomly die. I had one of these times where the nav point was still telling me to shoot something, it blew up, I assumed this was a cutscene, that was the end of the game, but no, I actually just died. I had no idea, and then I had to do it all over again. Fuck that. But once you finally get through this segment, it plays a very trippy cutscene that just brings up more questions than answers, and the game ends. Roll credits. You did it. Finally. Okay, so here are my actual thoughts about this game. I don't want to be mean to the developers, because it's just a small indie studio that started as a mod team. And what they're trying to do is perfectly fine. The problem is, it just is too long and overstays its welcome. If this was a 4 or 5 hour long game, I would consider it to be a great source game. But damn, it did not need to be 16 hours. The issue I have with it is just that it's a $20 game that is less advanced than Half-Life 2. It doesn't ever really try to push itself forward or do anything different. It's just more of a source game, but for an ungodly long time. It honestly almost feels like the whole point of this game is just to ferry you along so you can see the cool art and cool environment that they have. And if you really like cyberpunk stuff, then maybe you'll love this game. But for those of you that are looking for a in-depth source game, you're probably not going to find it here. Again, it's not offensive. It's not even bad. It's just kind of there. Not great. Maybe if you only play the game once every other day or once a week for a few hours, you could really enjoy it more. but you're going to be getting some heavy burnout if you try to do more than that. Perhaps some of these guys will get picked up as an artist for some bigger studio. I would love to see that happen because they definitely do deserve that. They put a lot of work into this game. Also, I still have no idea why it's named G-String. There was never an answer for that. Maybe it's because there's a bunch of sex bots around and it was a funny name? I don't know. That's literally the only conclusion I can come up with. And I guess we'll end our G-String adventure on that. Once again, huge shout out and thanks to Opera GX, the first browser for gamers, for sponsoring this video. If you want to try it out, check that link down below in the video information and pinned comment to download it for free. And also to tell me why every other color combination other than black and red is wrong. I mean, just look at that. Thanks to all of you that joined me over on Twitch. I did a lot of streaming since this game was so long, and you guys seem to enjoy it. It's always fun to hang out with you guys. If you want to join me in the future, my Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos ahead of time. Same thing with my patrons over on patreon.com/Jarek4. Thank all of you for watching, and I'll see you next time.